She never expected him to return. The man who vanished without explanation, the man who left her standing in the rain with questions burning in her throat. But there he was on her doorstep at dawn, with that same crooked smile, as if no time had passed, as if he hadn't destroyed everything. She should have slammed the door, should have screamed, should have called the police. Instead, she stepped aside and let him in, because sometimes the bravest thing a woman can do is face the ghost that haunts her. And this time, she wouldn't be the one left broken. The coffee maker sputtered to life, filling the kitchen with a bitter aroma that matched the tension crackling between them. Sarah kept her back to him while she poured 2 cups with steady hands that betrayed none of the chaos rioting through her chest. 3 years. 3 years since Marcus had walked out of her apartment and out of her life without so much as a text message afterward. He sat at her kitchen table now, in the same chair he'd always claimed as his own, and the familiarity of it made her want to throw the scalding coffee in his face. But she didn't. She set the cup in front of him with careful precision and took the seat across from him, maintaining the distance of the table between their bodies. "You look good," he said, and his voice was exactly as she remembered it. Warm like honey. Deceptive. "Don't," she said. "Don't do that. Don't sit in my kitchen and pretend this is a normal Tuesday morning catch-up between old friends." Marcus had the decency to look down at his coffee. His fingers wrapped around the mug, and she noticed he still wore that silver ring on his right hand, the one his grandfather had given him. Some details never change, no matter how much time passes. "I know I don't have the right to be here," he began, but Sarah cut him off with a sharp laugh. "You're right. You don't. So, why are you here, Marcus? Why show up now after all this time?" He looked up and met her eyes, and she saw something there she hadn't expected. Fear. Real, genuine fear. Marcus, who had always been so confident, so sure of himself, looked terrified sitting in her kitchen. "I'm in trouble, Sarah. Real trouble. And you're the only person I trust." The audacity of that statement should have sent her into a rage, should have made her throw him out immediately. But there was something in his voice that made her pause, something that reminded her of why she'd loved him in the first place before he'd shattered that love into 1,000 irreparable pieces. "What kind of trouble?" she asked against her better judgment. Marcus glanced toward the window as if checking to see if anyone was watching. "The kind where people end up dead if they're not careful. The kind where I've spent the last 3 years running and hiding and looking over my shoulder every single day." Sarah set down her coffee cup. "You need to explain. Now. From the beginning." So he did. The words poured out of him like water from a broken dam. He told her about the company he'd been working for. The pharmaceutical company that seemed legitimate on the surface but was running illegal drug trials on vulnerable populations in developing countries. He told her how he'd discovered the truth by accident when he'd been going through files he wasn't supposed to see. How he'd made copies of everything thinking he could expose them, thinking he could be a hero. "But they found out," he said, and his hands were shaking now. "They found out before I could get the information to the right people. I had to run Sarah. That night I left you, I had maybe an hour's warning. They would have killed me. They would have killed anyone close to me." "So you just left," she said, and her voice was flat. "Without a word, without giving me a choice about whether I wanted to take that risk with you." "I was protecting you." "No." Sarah stood up and paced to the window. "You were protecting yourself. Don't dress it up as some noble sacrifice, Marcus. You were scared and you ran and you made that choice alone without trusting me enough to let me in." "You're right," he said quietly. "You're absolutely right. I was a coward. I am a coward. But Sarah, I need your help now. They found me again. I've been moving every few months, changing my name, staying off the grid, but they found me. And I still have the evidence. I still have everything that could bring them down. Sarah turned to face him. Why come to me? What can I possibly do? You work for the Attorney General's office now. You have connections. You can get this information to the right people who can actually do something with it. She stared at him. How do you know where I work? I've kept tabs on you, he admitted. From a distance. I know you got promoted last year. I know you moved to this apartment 8 months ago. I know you're dating someone, though it doesn't seem serious. The invasion of her privacy should have angered her, but instead she felt something else. A cold calculation settling over her mind. Because Marcus was right about one thing. She did have connections. She had access to people who could protect him and use his evidence to take down a corrupt corporation. But more than that, she had the power in this situation. For the first time since he'd shown up, she held all the cards. If I help you, she said slowly, I need complete honesty. No more secrets. No more running off to protect me or make decisions for me. If we do this, we do it together, and you trust me enough to be a partner, not a victim. Marcus nodded. Anything. Whatever you need. I need to see the evidence first. I need to know what we're dealing with. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small flash drive. It's all here. Clinical trial data, financial records, internal emails, enough to put away their entire executive board for decades. Sarah took the flash drive and plugged it into her laptop. For the next hour, she read through files that made her stomach turn. Test subjects who died from experimental drugs and had their deaths covered up. Falsified safety reports. Bribes to government officials in 3 different countries. It was damning. It was comprehensive. And it was exactly the kind of case that could make or break careers in the Attorney General's office. This is big, Marcus, she said finally. This is bigger than big. If we go forward with this, you're going to need protection. Witness protection, probably. You're going to have to testify. I know. I'm ready. She studied his face, searching for any sign of the man who had abandoned her 3 years ago. But what she saw was someone different. Someone who had been ground down by fear and guilt and isolation. Someone who had finally decided to stop running. Okay, she said. Here's what we're going to do. I have a contact at the FBI who specializes in corporate corruption. His name is Agent Chen, and I trust him completely. I'm going to call him and set up a meeting for tomorrow morning. Until then, you stay here. You don't leave. You don't make any calls. You don't go near the windows. Understood? Marcus nodded. Thank you, Sarah. I know I don't deserve your help, but thank you. Don't thank me yet, she said. Because we need to talk about what happens after this is over. We need to talk about us. There is no us anymore, he said. I know that. I destroyed that. Maybe, Sarah said, but you don't get to make that decision alone either. When this is done, when you've testified and they're locked away and you're safe, we're going to have a real conversation about what happened, about why you didn't trust me, about whether there's anything left worth salvaging, and this time I get a say in how it ends. For the first time since he'd arrived, Marcus smiled. Really smiled. Deal. The rest of the day passed in a strange sort of domesticity. Sarah worked from home making calls and sending carefully worded emails to set up the meeting with Agent Chen. Marcus sat on her couch reading a book from her shelf, and occasionally they'd exchange glances that held entire conversations in the silence. As night fell, Sarah ordered takeout from the Thai place down the street, and they ate sitting cross-legged on her living room floor like they used to do back when things were simple. Back when the biggest problem they faced was deciding what to watch on Netflix. I miss this, Marcus said quietly. I missed you. Sarah set down her chopsticks. I was angry for a long time. So angry I couldn't see straight. I wanted to hate you, Marcus. I tried to hate you. But you couldn't? No, I couldn't. Because underneath the anger was just this ache, this missing piece where you used to be. Marcus reached across the space between them and took her hand. His thumb traced circles on her palm, and the familiarity of the gesture brought tears to her eyes. I don't know if we can fix this, she said. I don't know if we should even try. But I do know that I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago. I'm stronger now. I'm braver. And I won't let anyone make me feel small or unimportant or unworthy of trust ever again. Not even you. I know, he said. I can see it. The way you handled this today, the way you took charge. You were always strong, Sarah, but now you know it. You own it. She pulled her hand back gently. We should get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. That night, Sarah lay in her bed listening to Marcus settling onto her couch in the next room, and she thought about bravery, about how it's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes bravery is opening your door to the person who hurt you. Sometimes it's choosing to help even when you have every right to walk away. Sometimes it's demanding respect and honesty, even when it would be easier to just let things slide. The next morning, Agent Chen arrived at her apartment with 2 other agents. Sarah watched as Marcus handed over the flash drive and began telling his story all over again. She watched as Chen's expression grew darker with each detail, and she felt a fierce satisfaction knowing that she had made this happen, that her connections and her courage had given Marcus a chance at redemption. We'll need to move you to a safe house, Chen said to Marcus. Today. Right now, actually. Marcus looked at Sarah. Can she come with me? Just for a little while? Chen glanced between them and then nodded. For a few hours. We'll need her statement anyway. In the car on the way to the safe house, Marcus took Sarah's hand again. Whatever happens next, he said, I want you to know that showing up at your door yesterday was the bravest thing I've ever done, because I knew you might reject me. I knew you might hate me. But I also knew that if anyone could help me find my way back to being a decent person, it was you. Sarah looked out the window at the city passing by. The man who showed up yesterday wasn't the same man who left 3 years ago, she said. That man was a coward. But the man sitting next to me right now is trying to be brave, trying to make things right, and maybe that's enough to start with. Is it enough for us? He asked. She turned to face him. I don't know yet. Ask me again after this is over, after you've testified and done the right thing, after we've both had time to figure out who we are now instead of who we used to be. Then maybe we can decide if there's a future worth fighting for. Marcus nodded and squeezed her hand, and Sarah felt something shift inside her chest. Not forgiveness exactly, not yet, but the possibility of it, the beginning of healing. And sometimes that's all you can ask for when someone shows up the next day asking for a second chance they may not deserve, but are finally brave enough to fight for.